know about the project and about what we're doing and what we have to accomplish? Anybody? Just a little bit. Tell me what you know. Yes. That's right. Exactly. So first we got to land, then we got to traverse 500 meters from one place to the other, and on both sides we got to do what they call a moon cast to get back. Now, a lot of the other teams are building rovers. It's pretty sexy to build a rover, but if you do an engineering analysis of what it means to accomplish this mission and meet those requirements, you don't actually need a rover. And this simplifies things. Just having one craft. It already has to have all the propulsion necessary to land. That propulsion is strong enough, powerful enough for a really small amount of fuel to be able to take off and land again. It simplifies the whole system. You don't have to integrate a rover with the lander itself and have communication systems on both, control systems on both. So we've integrated all into one small package. Could you spin it up, put it up on the top? So you can see the top deck coming down. There we go. All right, so this big disc here is the solar panel. That's where we get all of our electricity from. When we launch, of course, we're not in sunlight, so we have to rely on a battery during all of the ascent and departure phase. And that's about an hour or so, where the rocket takes off and puts the spacecraft onto its trajectory to the moon. After that hour, the spacecraft can turn itself to point that panel towards the sun and generate its own electricity. But until then, all of the attitude is determined by what direction the rocket's thrusting. And so we have to have a battery on board to hold the spacecraft powered on, ready to do all the things it does at final separation when the spacecraft is separated from the launch vehicle and it's on its way on its own. So it'll restore itself attitude-wise to point that array at the sun, and then for the rest of the mission, that's the primary power source. During the descent landing, when we're firing the rockets again, once more, we don't have the liberty to point that array where we want to point it. We have to point the rocket where it's got to be pointed in order to decelerate it and bring it down to the surface of the moon. So the battery again takes over and allows us to put that. Yes?
The solar panel has no ability to turn.
It does not. Okay. A lot of spacecraft will have gimbaled solar arrays, so that as the spacecraft is, say, orbiting around the planet it's been sent to, it can point a camera in one direction or an antenna in one direction and still maintain solar pointing. It can be power positive. That's very common. In our case, during the cruise from here to the moon, we don't have to articulate anything. All we need is that solar ray towards the sun. The rest of the pointing is irrelevant. Our antennas are omnidirectional, so they communicate in any direction. We don't have to point an antenna. Our cameras aren't required during the transit phase from here to there. So for that whole period, pointing the array is pointing the whole spacecraft is the simplest solution. Once we're on the surface of the moon, we have to use solar power to land, to operate on the surface, right? So once we land, we want to land when the sun is at about a quarter of the way through the sky, and run the whole mission for about the 8-day period where the sun is high in the sky. And then it's going to start to set towards the horizon. So how long is the day on the moon? How long is the day?
23 days.
How many?
23.
23 days, yeah. So almost 28 actually. 28 something. And so there's 14 Earth days of sunlight for any given moon day. And what we want to do is we want to basically be operational for that 8-day period around high sun. By doing that, we don't have to articulate that array while we're doing our primary operations on the surface of the moon. Every turn that we took during the design of this, we did what we could to make the mission simpler. To keep the cost down, to keep the timeline down, to keep the risks down. Without having a gimbaled solar array, there's a lot of mass we save and mechanisms that will move the array, as well as the structure necessary to keep the two separate from one another, the deck and the lander. And those things can always break, and then what are you going to do? So we designed it to be robust without that. So I guess the reason why I'm talking mostly about the liftoff and departure and then landing is visually, those are the interesting times. Okay, the period between when you separate from the launch vehicle and you start cruising towards the moon, and when you turn to burn attitude and start to descend to the moon, the spacecraft essentially doesn't move. It's just going to hold one attitude for like 3.5 days and not really do anything from that point to from one point to the next. But once you go to burn attitude, that's when all the exciting stuff happens. You'll turn to burn attitude, you'll have to fire off the big rocket that we hit. That only burns for about 20 or 30 seconds, and then it's totally depleted and we drop it. So if you can actually turn it a little sideways and then everybody bring that rocket back up. I don't know how much do you guys do that's pure rendering and how much do you do that's animation? You guys
50-50.
50-50, okay. So what's going to happen is when we get to about 25,000 kilometers from our landing site, we're screaming in towards the moon at about 2,500 meters per second. Okay, and this rocket's going to fire. So the whole spacecraft, if this bright light here is the sun, so we're cruising along towards the moon, and the solar rays pointing towards the sun, and then this rocket has to be. So the whole spacecraft's going to turn, and the rocket's going to be pointing towards the moon in order to decelerate us as we approach the moon. And so now we're not power positive anymore, but the rocket's pointing in the right direction. For about 20 or 30 seconds, that rocket's going to fire, and then when it's done firing, we're going to be about 3 kilometers above the surface. Okay? At that point, we have to drop this. So an animation, a good animation, would show this big gray solid rocket motor and the support structure that's attached to it separating from the craft and falling away. Okay? And a good clean separation, it'll have almost no torque on it, so it might spin a little bit, but just a tiny bit. In fact, if there's a lot of spin to it, you risk recontact, and that can be somewhat dangerous. So we're going to tune the springs and the release mechanism very carefully so that when it separates, it's a nice clean separation. And then that'll fall, basically, they'll fall together at first because they're basically under the influence of gravity. Okay, so the spacecraft has come to a screeching halt. It goes from 2,500 meters a second to 0 with respect to the landing site. And then they start to fall together. Gravity takes over. Gravity in the moon is 1/6 Earth's gravity, so acceleration is pretty slow. But there's a little bit of an impulse between the two because it's a spring release of the solid rocket motor as it starts to descend. So they're going to start to separate. And then this one's going to start to fire thrusters. And I'll show you where those are in a second. So they start to fire thrusters to slow itself down. This is going to just continue to naturally decelerate and eventually crash on the moon. Whereas the body of the spacecraft itself is going to control its descent to try to keep it about at a constant velocity. From about 3,000 meters above the surface, I think it takes 3 minutes if you were to just drop something from that point for it to hit the moon. And so for that first minute or so, we just want to be in a free fall and build up a little bit of speed, but not too much. And then for the last 2 minutes, we'll be in a controlled descent where we try to keep it at about constant velocity. There's a radar. There's an active radar that's going to ping down the surface of the moon. I'll show you where that is too. All right. There's an active radar that will ping down the surface, and it'll get the range to the surface, and it'll tell the spacecraft what the range rate is, not only how far away it is, but how fast it's going down. So we can control the speed around that closed loop. Once it gets to this is about 6 feet across, okay, about 2 meters across. Once it gets to, I think it's 1.6 meters in the model, actually. Once it gets to about 10 meters, it might break a little bit harder, but then when it gets to 2 meters or so from this point, the surface of the moon, it's going to just cut off its motors altogether and just let itself fall down to the surface.